Divya, what do you mean by production? Production means, in ordinary language, when you hear production means,
Ma'am,
yeah, Divya,
ma'am,
are you not there?
ma'am,
Speak, Divya. What is
ma-
production?
manufacturing of raw materials.
Louder, better, louder.
Manufacturing of raw materials.
Of the raw materials? Can you repeat? Okay, I will increase. Okay, now you speak better. My
Manufacturing of raw materials.
manufacturing of raw materials. Okay, somebody else. Aditi, you were going to say something.
Ma'am, manufacturing in large scale or large extent.
Ma'am,
Yeah, who is that?
ma'am,
Who is
Varsha.
that? Ah, wait, Varsha. Yeah.
Ma'am, making or something in large quantity.
Making, manufacturing. So the common terms I got is manufacturing, and Divya said raw materials. So it's not actually manufacturing raw materials. That will come to that. Anyway, we got the word manufacturing, and Varsha told making something. Yeah, now Priyanshu,
Yes, ma'am.
how do you feel? The
Ma'am,
same? Yeah,
ma'am, the making or growing something. Ma'am,
making
like
of.
growing something like growing crops. Ma'am, it is also a type of production.
Yeah, sure, sure. Prekhar,
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, can you tell what is the question?
production. What do you mean by production?
Ma'am, it's a transformation of input into output.
Louder.
Ma'am, it is the transformation of input into output.
Okay, good. Anybody else? Anybody else with something you have something else to say, something else to add to it? No. Okay, production you said it is manufacturing. Yeah, it's manufacturing. And Divya said raw materials. Yeah, I mean the thing you use as inputs are known as raw materials. That's what manufacturing means,
Ma'am,
making something. Yeah, Prakhar, yeah.
ma'am, in
Prakhar, you want to
production,
add something? Mhm.
ma'am, in production, labor, machines, land, raw materials are required.
Okay, so many raw materials are required. So in production. So making something out of the raw materials, that is production. So production means using something to make something else. To make it more to increase the utility. Suppose, for example, you have leather. Leather, it has less utility for us. When we make it into a bag or a shoe or something else like that, what is increased? The utility is increased. Usefulness of the utility is increased. So changing it, so it is a transformation of some inputs into outputs. So using some inputs, you can say raw material also, you are making some output which gives you utility. That is the meaning of what? Production. So production is transforming the inputs into outputs. Inputs means whatever you use, whatever you use in the form of in the process of production, those are known as inputs. So for what purpose we changing these inputs into outputs? To make it more useful, to increase the utility. Normally, there are some factors of production. Factors of production are land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. What are they? land is there, so you have to like locate it somewhere. So there is land is required, land, labor is required, land, labor, then capital, money is required. To install a business, what is required? Money. To buy a machine or something, to buy a raw material, whatever, money is required. That is capital. What is capital? The investment in business is known as capital. So the factors of production like land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. You can even say entrepreneurship as organization ability. What is entrepreneurship? That is organization ability. That's also required. So transforming with the help of all these inputs, something output is produced, increase its usefulness or utility, that particular process is known as production. So we will see production function in detail today. So the main aim is to increase the utility. Okay, so it is production refers to the transformation of inputs into output. That's the simple meaning of production. You can write it. Production function refers to the transformation of input into output.
Ma'am, can you repeat?
Production refers to transformation of inputs into outputs. Transformation of inputs into outputs. So whatever you use in the process, during the process is known as input. And what is the transformation you have done? You will change the form. Leather into shoes or leather has changed to bag means you have changed the form of the product and increase the utility. The transformation of input into output is known as what? Production. Now, what is production function? So that's the production process. Another term, production, simply production and production function. Both are different terms. What is production function? Production function is the relation between these inputs and output. Production function is the relationship between inputs and outputs of a firm. Relationship between inputs and outputs of a firm. The definition is production function is an expression of technological relation between physical input and output. That means it's a relation between. Relation means it's a technological relation between physical input and output. So it's simply a relation between physical input and output. As I said, what are the factors of production? I said, generally, what are the factors of production? Anybody?
Labor.
Land, labor, capital,
Land.
entrepreneurship.
Very good.
And capital.
Yeah, land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. These are generally the factors of production. So these can be otherwise called, what these factors of production can be otherwise called? Otherwise called? We are using it for the purpose of production. So what can you call it? Inputs. So these are called the inputs. And what is production function? Production function is the relation between these inputs and outputs. So what is production function, Prakhar?
Ma'am, production function is a relationship between inputs and outputs.
I said the factors of production are land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. Land is there, labor is there, capital is there, entrepreneurship is there. So all these and even technology is there. Load of factors of production are there. Okay, and here we assume for making the idea simple. Here in the production function, we assume we are using only the labor and capital. So while studying production function, we assume that we use only two factors of production, is land and capital. This is not like a real thing, but we assume for making the, rules or making the different kinds of assumptions are here. Many kinds of laws are here, diminishing marginal utility, different types of law of variable proportion, different laws are there. So in order, for making this law and all, we are assuming we are assuming that we are doing with only labor and capital. A for what? Labor and L for what? Labor and K for capital. So even though there are different types of different number of factors of production, like land is there, labor is there, capital is there, entrepreneurship is there, or you can say organization skill is there. So many factors of production are there. In this case, in order to understand the law in a simple manner, we assume that we are doing with only labor and capital. This is L is for labor, not for land. Okay, this is for labor and capital. So we assume we are using only labor and capital. So production function is the relationship between the physical inputs and physical outputs. So you can say, what is output? Output is the function of, so when you have to write output, you can write output is the function of all the inputs. Suppose you have a different one or two or three inputs, you can write input 1, you can write input 1, then you can write input 2, input 2, then input 3. So like that, it's a function of different inputs. So output is the function of I1, I2, I3, I4 till IN, whatever you use. Okay. So this is a function of, that is why the production function can be depicted by the equation O, that is output is OX. You can write OX. Write this equation. You can write OX is equal to, so producing an X number of item. It's a function of I1, I2, I3. It can go till IN. There is no like a limit. The inputs according to your wish. In order to increase the production, you can use any number of inputs. So that is why it is the function of I1, I2, I3, and the like can go to IN, and the number of inputs you can use. But even though you have the number of inputs, we assume here to making the laws, different laws we will study here. In order to make this law simple, we assume that we use only what and what? We use only two things. They are
Labor and capital.
labor and capital. So labor and capital. So here what you can write? OX is equal to, in this case you can write OX is equal to, complete. OX is equal to,
FLK.
very good, function of labor and capital. FLK means function of labor and capital. To write this thing, L, here you just write the expansion, what do you mean by L and what do you mean by K also. This is labor and this is capital. Write this equation and this equation as well. So normally it is this, but in order to making the understand the law simply, we assume that we are doing with only two factors of production, that is labor and capital. Then the equation is like this. OX is equal to function of labor and capital. So production function establishes a relation between input and output. It establishes a relation between input and output. That is why it is equalizing. It's the relation between input and output. See, the production function is always defined with respect to a given technology. Why it always defined with respect to a given technology? Because you know, if there is an improvement in the technique of production, that there is an improvement in the technology, what will happen in the output? What will happen to the output? If there is an increase in the technology or improvement in the technology, what will happen? Come on.
Output will also increase.
Yeah, improvement or increase in production. That's increased output. So whenever technology improvement is there, there is an increase in the output also. That is why it is always, production function is always defined with respect to a given technology. You right? Production function is always defined with respect to a given technology. Production function is always defined with respect to a given technology. What is the reason? If there is an improvement in technique production or improvement in technology, there will be an increased output. So if there is an improvement in technology, actually with the same inputs, we can have more outputs. So that is the effect of the technology. With the same inputs, we can have more outputs. That is the contribution of technology in production. We don't even want to increase the inputs. With the same inputs, we can have more output. The same physical inputs. So that is why with the same physical inputs, we can have more outputs. So that is the contribution of technology in production. So that's why production is always defined with respect to a given technology. So technology matters a lot in this production function. This relationship, technology matters a lot. That's why it is always defined in terms of technology, because with the same physical inputs, you can have increased output if there is an improvement in technology. Have you written all these things? Can I clear the board?
Yes, ma'am.
So now we will study two terms, that is short run and long run. In the case of production function, these two terms are very important. What are the two terms? Short run and long run. For short run, what do you mean by short run? The period is comparatively shorter. Long run, the period is comparatively long. So how does it will affect the production function? So short run refers to a period in which output can be changed by changing only the variable factors. That's it. Here in the short run, What only you can change? The variable factors. The variable factors can only be changed in the short run. So here you have assumed that we have labor and capital. You have assumed two factors. So can you say which is the variable factor among this labor and capital? What is the
Labor.
variable factor? Labor. So labor is a variable factor because in order to change the capital, you need some time. In short run, changing the capital, which is a fixed factor, this is a fixed factor. Capital is a fixed factor. That means you can change labor, but in long run only you can change the capital. So the definition itself says short run is a period in which output can be changed by changing only the variable factors. So if you are not able to change the fixed factors, only the variable factors you can change in a particular period of time, that is known as short run. And if you can change the fixed factors also, that period is referred to as long run. So I repeat, what is short run? Short run refers to a period in which output can be changed by changing only the variable factors. So output can be changed only by changing the variable factors. That means mainly as we have only two factors of production here, how will you do it in this case? How can you increase the production? By increasing the number of workers. So if you want to increase the output, then what you will do? You will increase the number of workers because in the short run, increasing the fixed capital or the capital is, assumed to be not possible. That is why it is known as short run. During the period, what cannot be changed? Fixed factors cannot be changed. That particular period is known as short run. So short run actually refers to a period in which output can be changed only by changing what? Complete the sentence. Output can be changed only by changing the
Variable factor.
variable factor. So once again, I repeat, short run refers to a period in which output can be changed by changing only the variable factors. So for example, in this case, by increasing the number of workers only, you can change the output, and this is not possible that particular period. For different industries and for different sectors, for different kinds of production unit, it will be different. Yes or no? This particular period will be different. Suppose a particular production unit can change this also, then it will come under long run. And it's a particular period of time, it cannot change the fixed factors, only variable factors it can change. Then for that particular firm or production unit, short run is that. So it's a subjective factor. You cannot say 3 months is so short run, 1 year is short run. So there is not a fixed number for that. It's a subjective factor. Maybe 1 year may be short run for a particular business, and for some other business it will be 2 or 3 years. It's according to the capability of changing the fixed factors. So if it can change only the variable factors up to 2 years, it cannot change the fixed capital or fixed factors. For that, it's a short run. So it's a subjective factor. It's a relative factor or subjective factor. So there is nothing like a hard and fast rule or a tailor-made number that for 3 years and 1 year. There is nothing like that. It is depending upon the particular unit, how in what period they can change the fixed factor. If variable factor only can be changed during a particular period, then it is said to be short run. And if capital can also be changed, that is known as long run. So how will you explain long run? Yeah, how will you explain long run?
In which all factors are needed to be changed for a improvement.
Repeat, you want to say this correct, but repeat.
Then
Full
all
sentence.
all factors are needed to be changed in the production.
Yeah, very good. Long run refers to a period in which output can be changed by changing all factors. What do you mean by all factors? Both variable factors and fixed factors. Variable factors and fixed factors, that is known as all factors, both. All factors. If both can be changed in a particular period of time, that is known as long run. So long run refers to a period in which output can be changed by changing all factors of production. Output can be changed by changing all factors of production. So that is short run and long run. Did you write it here? Whether I have to repeat it? Do I have to repeat it? Yeah, yes or no? Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Should I repeat it?
Yes, मैम एक बार रिपीट कर दीजिए.
Okay, so short run and long run. Production, the production function, under production function, the time period is divided into what? Short run and long time periods. What is being divided? Time period is being divided into two. What is short run? Short run refers to a period in which output can be changed. So that you keep in mind. What is output? The effect on output. The output can be changed only by changing the variable factor. So short run refers to a period in which output can be changed by changing only the variable factor. For example, you write, by increasing the number of workers, you are increasing the output. You cannot change the building, like you have fixed deposit or fixed factors like plant, machinery, building. This cannot be done in this period of time. This cannot be changed in this period of time to increase the output or change the output. That cannot be done. The fixed factors cannot be changed. Like a new building, new machine, new factory, that cannot be done. Only you can change the variable factors to change the output, make a change in the output. So that particular period refers to short run. Is it clear now?
Yes, ma'am.
So output can be changed only by changing the variable factors. So in other ways you can write, you cannot change the fixed factors like building, factory, machines and all. So what is long run? Long run refers to a period in which output can be changed by changing all the factors. Output can be changed by changing all the factors of production. And there you mentioned like both, that is variable factor and fixed factor. Variable factors and fixed factors. Variable and fixed. That means you can say all the factors can be changed. That particular period of time is known as long run. That means in this case, you can change the size of the factory. You can buy a new machine, put more capital, infuse more capital, improve the technology. All this can be done in this particular period because it is relatively longer. Such a period is known as long run. So it's a fixed time span. So according to this time period is divided into two, that is short run and long run. So as I told you, it's a subjective concept or relative concept. Or you can say it's a functional concept because it depends upon the production condition. It varies from firm to firm. Firm A, firm B, it varies from firm to firm or it varies from industry to industry. For a particular iron and steel industry or a heavy industry must be sometimes 10 years will be short run. or 5 years will be short run. And for some small other industry, it will be a long year. So it's a relative concept, or you can say it's a functional concept. It's a functional concept. It's a relative concept, or it's a subjective concept. Why? It's a subjective concept because it differs from firm to firm or industry to industry. It differs. So it's a functional concept. So a period of 5 years must be short run for some business, for some firms, or long run for some other firms. So tell me, what are the difference between short run and long run? Short run and long run. You have studied. Okay, let me write it. Short run and long run. So that's a good question. Difference between, now you know the meaning. What is short run and what is a long run? Now you know the meaning. So you can differentiate it as well. What is the meaning of short run? You will write short run refers to period in which output can be changed by changing only the variable factors. So here one more, normally when we write board exam and all, always it is better you write in this way. Here you write the basis. On what basis it is being differentiated. Here you can write the meaning. So first you write the meaning. What is the meaning of short run? Now only you have seen it refers to a period in which output can be changed by changing only the variable factors. Here, what is the meaning of long run? Long run refers to a period in which output can be changed by changing all factors of production. All factors of production. That means both variable factors and fixed factors. So that's the meaning. So one difference is come. So in this case, in short run only, there is a classification among the factors. This is classified as variable factors and fixed factors. This classification has some meaning in the case of short run only, because in the long run, all factors are variable in the long run. So here factors are classified as variable and fixed factors. So here factors are classified as variable factors and fixed factors. Here all factors are variable in the long run. So here that division is not there because all factors are variable. In this case, all factors are variable. You can change both. So all factors are variable in the case of long run. And here you can write only variable factors. That means there are two divisions. That is variable factors and fixed factors, because it is fixed. In the short run it is fixed, but it is not, here it is not fixed. So in this case all factors are variable. But here some fixed factors are there. Okay. So now we will see in detail what are the variable factors and fixed factors that we can do in the next class.